All right, we're on. Okay, welcome, ladies, to day 2 of the Business Breakthrough Challenge. I'm your host, Mara Riopel. How do you like that intro? Okay, so I was just talking to Lee a little bit about the day 1 action step challenge that I gave everyone, which was to go and try to talk to 3 people who are potential ideal clients. And I know that we have live Lee and Yandel who both did it because they posted in. Rachel, I'm not sure if you did it. You can jump in the chat if you want and let me know if you reached out. But basically, the gist is it was so much easier than you thought to go and reach out to cold people, right? Yes. Okay. I'm just going to pin myself as the speaker here. There we go. Okay. Yandel, do you want to share any of your oh my gosh, that was so easy.
So mine wasn't necessarily cold people. It's people that I know of that follow me, but I targeted to them because my objective is like people that they have a side hustle, but they don't take it seriously, or they started it in the past and they stopped it. So I wanted to target them. But like you said, it wasn't hard at all. I kind of copied from you. Like I sent an audio just saying, hey, do you have time to answer a couple of questions for me? And they were open. So I reached out to 3 people and 2 people got back. One actually was my doula. That's who I'm waiting on. I know that she will get back to me. I just haven't heard back yet.
Okay, cool. Okay, so what I want to say about that is yesterday we covered recap. We went heavy into market research because we want to grow a targeted audience full of leads who will buy our high ticket offers. That's the goal of this whole week. And so at the end of the day, you have to know who your target is. So yesterday I explained you have 3 lanes on a freeway, A, B, and C lanes. If you're talking straight up the middle to B, everybody else can still hear you, but they can choose to merge into the B lane and come up and buy from you. But if you talk to all 3 of them at the same time, nobody can hear you and it's a big traffic jam. And the reason that I want to re-emphasize this is because a lot of people will say, well, I have more than one ideal client. And the hard part about having more than one ideal client at a time is that your marketing efforts, most of us are ambitious moms and we don't have time to be doing 45,000 different things. And also to have 2 different ideal clients, it confuses your marketing because you're talking to more than one person all the time, right? So you could have a specific offer that you're pulling somebody towards and then create the process we talked about yesterday where you're going to create summits or a collaborative event to pull in the right leads for that offer. But you still want to stay consistent on that train for, let's say, at least 6 months. I would say longer, because you want to be making enough money from your high ticket offers so that you then have time to start getting fancy with bells and whistles and start adding other streams of income, which then you could target other people, or they could be complementary products and stuff like that to start picking up some of the leads that you brought in that didn't necessarily need your main offer. So that could be people who are really, really beginner. If you're somebody like me who's like, okay, I only work with beginners if they are runners, right? So if somebody's like, I will hit the ground running, I will just take the coaching and run, I will do what you want me to do. But those are also the types of people that I won't have to answer super simple questions because they understand that they can just go to Google and Google it. So it's resourceful type people, but that's my ideal client. So you have to decide for yourself, who is my main person that I'm pulling into my main signature offers? So usually that would be either a one-on-one, or if you're a little bit more advanced and you've already had some one-on-one clients, now you're ready to take it to a group format, then that would be your main offer. So whichever one you're kind of aiming towards. I think a lot of us have one-on-ones and group available, but that's when you start to be able to charge higher for your one-on-ones, is because you've had enough one-on-one people go through that you have a process and people can access it in a group format. They're going to get those results because you know how to bring them through that flow and that process of whatever it is that they're struggling with at that stage of life or business. And then you're going to be able to come back and say, okay, well, now I only have this many spots open for one-on-one support, and you can charge higher ticket for that now too. And it just allows you to kind of, the whole goal, like we talked about yesterday, is time on your hands as well as money in the bank. It's not just the money. So most of us leave successful corporate careers and don't want to burn out in online business. And so we have to design this stuff instead of letting it happen by default. And most of us have a tendency to be workaholics if we let ourselves go to that place. And so with kids and stuff like that, it's really hard to get there. So part of what we're trying to do with selling out high ticket offers is make sure that we are getting paid enough so that we don't have to work all the time, right? So I just wanted to re-emphasize this A, B, and C thing, because you have to decide who your B is. Then you're going to do market research to go find out exactly who that person is, so you know her inside and out. You know what she's struggling with, what she thinks she needs versus what you know she needs. Those are very big differences. And then the other thing I want to talk about with this B is Ella was, I'm going to give her like a hand. I know that Ella, you said you're going to watch the replay today because your son's at swimming. But I want to give her a huge hand, because reaching out the way she has and being super vulnerable and open and honest about what she's struggling with right now is going to help everyone that's in this challenge. So she said, I got 3 responses already, similar to others. My aha is that it's not hard to send a DM. My ideal clients are not interested in my freebie or other content because they don't have time, or it's not on their radar currently. So one of the people she reached out to was me. And she asked me, hey, would you mind if I do market research? Because I think you're my ideal client. So I responded back to her and said, actually, I'm not your ideal client because I am not interested at all in my website design right now. I don't feel like that's a part of my business that I need to focus on. That's not where I want to put any of my time or attention or money. And so then she got back and said, you know, it's hard. It's hard because my ideal clients are not interested in my freebie or my other content because they don't have time or it's not on their radar currently. So that actually is a huge mindset shift that everyone can learn from, that needs to happen right now for her. Because if your ideal client doesn't have your services on their radar, then they're not your ideal client. You want to go out and look for people who are looking for answers to the problem that you solve. So when we're thinking about that, we could do all kinds of different options or like industries, but her specifically was such a good example, because it's like, if you are going to tell yourself that nobody wants your stuff, nobody has time, nobody's interested, then the energy that you go out into the world with to try to figure out your ideal client and what they need to hear to come in is going to be shut down right away. And I always call that like Eeyore energy. Like nobody wants to buy from Eeyore, right? Like, because we want to be inspired. We want to get excited. We want to move forward. We want growth. We want this, we want that. Everyone does in all aspects of life or business. And so if you come in there and you're like forcing or trying to convince somebody or try to pull them along, that's not going to be good energy for you to show up in. And it's not going to be good energy for somebody just to buy in, because that low energy then feels like forcing and pushing, and that feels like desperation energy. And nobody wants to buy from somebody who has that desperation energy. And so I just think that was like so brave of her for stepping up and just saying like, here's what I'm struggling with. Oh my gosh, like I don't know, like my ideal client. So she thinks that I'm her ideal client. But as of literally reaching out to 3 people, she's now realized that I am not her ideal client, because she probably did an avatar. This is like me guessing. If this is not true, then that's totally fine. But a lot of the time what I'm seeing is women are coming in and they're saying like, I can't find my person. I can't find my people. And if all you've ever done is filled out an avatar worksheet, then you might think that I'm your ideal client, because she said, I'm an established, successful coach. That I can't remember what the other things in the voice note that she sent me. And let me give you some more examples on an avatar worksheet that might make you think that somebody is your ideal client. So maybe they thought like, you know, I don't know, over 35, an entrepreneur online, a coach, like established business. Maybe they were like drives, the avatar worksheets, drives a minivan, 4 kids, whatever. Like, I don't have a minivan. I refuse. I'm not there yet. Anyway, so she might have thought that I'm her ideal client, but by me telling her, like, I'm not like, website design is not on my radar at all. I do all my own website stuff and I don't think it sucks, and that's good enough for me. So she either has to pick a different point of entry to get in front of me that is something that I actually want to be working on, or she needs to go and look for the people who are looking for her. So if she wants to work on website design, so this might apply to you, Rachel, too. I know you kind of already have like a 10-year established reputation, so it might be a little bit different, but that just means that it's a little bit, but think about this. This is what I was thinking for her. So if she wanted to get in front of me, she would have to be talking about like next level influence. Have you considered that your website doesn't reflect the influence that you're wanting to make or the impact that you're trying to make? That would position it totally differently for me. And I'd be like, oh, like I hadn't even thought of that. You know what I mean? Whereas if somebody says, do you need website design services? I'm like, no, I'm good. I already have a website. I know how to make my landing pages work. I'm good. You know what I mean? And also another thing I was thinking is when you're talking to business owners who are scaling and maybe they want their branding to start matching their influence or what they feel would be a better reflection of where they're at in their businesses, then you might want to position yourself as a luxury website designer or something like that, or a website designer for luxury brands, or that might not be the right word, but you'd have to talk to more people about that specifically. But the perception for me is if I want a website that's done really well with a lot of like moving parts and like beautiful videos and really enhanced stuff, then I'm probably not going to go with a website designer who's going to charge a lower ticket price because I don't trust that that matches what I'm going for. So all these pieces come into play when we're thinking about who our ideal client is and what the offer is that we're selling. If you want to be selling website design services, this is just me brainstorming it out, and your price point is like $1,500 for website design package, that's not going to speak to the person who's like at 200 and scaling kind of thing. You know what I mean? 200,000 a year and scaling, that type of crowd, because to me anyways, a $10,000 package would make more sense, or a $6,000 with add-ons like Rachel, like you were saying earlier. So it's like the perception that I have of an offer based on a price point, it adds to how I perceive the value inside of that thing too. So I just wanted to start off today with that little bit of info, just because I thought that was it was such a huge shift that needs to happen. If you think that your ideal clients don't have time for your stuff or don't have your stuff on their radar, then you either have to figure out the way to come in and get on their radar without forcing or pushing, which means you need to attract them with what it is that they're actually looking for, which would be like influence to match your, impact or whatever. I'm out of breath because I'm so pregnant. Can you guys tell? Can you remind me what you consider high ticket offer? Yeah. So right now, what I would say is you have to be charging at least $5,000 or $500 a month for coaching services. So if you have like a 6-month program, it has to be at least $3,000 and up. That's because the amount of effort and time and stuff like that goes into coaching on that type of level, it requires a different amount of trust and relationship building, which is what I'm teaching through the summits and the stacking events afterwards. I'm going to get into the stacking events tomorrow. Today, we're going to talk a lot about summits and collaborative events to pull in the leads. And tomorrow we're going to talk about, okay, now what? Now we have leads, now what, right? So the reason that I talk about high ticket offers is because you can drive a lot of cold traffic into low ticket offers and have them convert because the level of trust is different. But when you're trying to sell out your high ticket offers, and I work with coaches who want a life, so a lot of the time that starts with knowing your client inside and out so that you can sell one-on-one, then move to group, then move to the courses and the lower ticket things that can pick up other people that came into your audience and weren't ready to buy. Or now you can start running ads because now you know your messaging inside and out because you've taken enough people through the process that you offer. Now it gets to be fun because you can start building out all these different like passive income sources and lower ticket offers and like a product suite. But I like to work with women who want to go out and get paid, the higher ticket stuff, to work more intensely with people first, because that's the way you get paid to figure out your process, so that once you get to, your funnels and your fancy stuff that's going to bring in cold to closed quickly, it's on lower ticket stuff. And then they ascend up your ascension ladder. If you haven't heard about that, that just basically means eventually you want steps in your ladder to lead up to your big high ticket offers, which would be your group program or your one-on-one, whatever you choose. But a lot of people try to start with the low stuff, but they don't know their ideal client well enough. And so nothing sells. And so you might as well be failing at your, $3,000 to $5,000 or $10,000 offer than your $97 offer, because the process is the same to get to know that person. Is that landing? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I wanted to say that first. Does anyone have any questions on what she said? Because she also said, I have 2 ideal clients. I have like a do-it-yourself website design course that I can sell, or I have like my website design services. I mean, I would, if it was me, I would go after the larger ticket item first. So just concentrate there. And then you do have that downsell option. She did mention that. Or you go all in, depending on how much experience and track record you have online. Because here's the other thing, we fall into imposter syndrome. I know, Yandel, this is something that you talk about a lot, which is like, hey, how do I get over this fear of going out there and putting myself out there, and imposter syndrome? And the easiest way to get over imposter syndrome is not to try to like pump yourself up in the morning and just tell yourself you can do it, because we all know that that's just motivation, and it dwindles and it falls off, right? You can't stay in that energy all the time, that forced, pumped up, pretend energy, for lack of a better word, but you can focus on what you know for sure. So I always say, like, what do you know for sure that you can teach somebody? Or what do you know for sure that you could, what problem do you know that you could solve for somebody? What do you know for sure about life experience that you could pass to somebody else? I always say your failures in life, in business, in whatever, area you're in, those are the things that become the playbook that you actually end up, charging for later, because you know how to shortcut the pain train. So whenever you're coming into something where you're like, okay, well, should I start with this avatar, like this ideal client, or this one? It's like, well, what do you know for sure, and what lights you up, and what do you want to show up for, even when it feels like it's not working? Because there's going to be some of that. So hopefully that's helpful. I say pick one avatar. Yesterday I talked about the process that you want to go through, and confidence, clarity, and commitment to one thing includes one ideal client to start. Because if you're putting out, now for somebody like Yandel, who also has like a physical, like a product-based business to add to the mix, she's probably going to want to pull in the crowd that's going to have those coaching, those empowerment type women who want to be inspired, want to be empowered to go out and create their own businesses or whatever it is that she wants to teach, that also makes sense for the product line that she's selling, which it totally does, because Mommy Slays is her product line of jewelry. And so she wants to pull in the coaching clients that also make sense for that jewelry line, and they're totally in alignment. So that's not two different avatars. That might be two offers, but it's going towards the same person. So does that make sense? Because that's, I mean, if you have multiple offers to sell to the same crew is great, but a whole bunch of different people that you're trying to sell to is very confusing for people. And like I said yesterday, the reason we need to be so specific and clear with our avatar or our ideal client in the online space is because there's just so much freaking noise out there. And another thing, when you're defining your ideal client and you're talking about, like, a lot of people will DM me, I'll say, who is your ideal client? Or tell me a little bit about who you like to work with. And often I'll get some kind of like really nice, fluffy, padded response back. And I'm like, that's cool that you know who this is, but me from the outside looking in, I have no idea who this person is. And so it's hard for a lot of people because they'll fight against me all the time. No, I've nailed down my I help statement. I took a course and I nailed it down. And I'm like, I understand that, but if you ask 10 people who don't know what you do, if this makes sense to them and they say no, then you have a clarity problem. And the easiest way to kind of wrap our heads around that is, like, a lot of us are moms, and a lot of us are scrolling social media mindlessly while we're making dinner, while we're sitting on the couch watching Netflix, while we're listening to our kids jibber jabber, whatever. So you have to have super clear, simple messaging. One of my mentors says, don't get clever, get clear, because people don't have a huge attention span, right? They're just scrolling. We're all just scrolling. But if somebody's really pointed, like, hey, have you considered that your website actually doesn't match your authority in your space or something? I'd be like, Birch, what? You know what I mean? And now maybe Ella has an in with me where I might keep reading her post versus like, I'm a website designer. I'm like, oh, don't need that. So see how she could position herself very differently, very quickly, just by changing the messaging. So that's why we have to go out and talk to real people. Because if she was asking me questions about, like, hey, do you, like, what would she start with? I love these brainstorming things because it doesn't take long to create a script that would actually be super impactful. But it's like, hey, have you considered reworking your website? Or who currently takes care of your website for you in your business? And I'd say, nobody, I do it myself. And she'd be like, oh my gosh, good for you. Like, so many people are scared to do it. I've actually checked out your website, because that's what I would do if I was trying to get, clients, like I was trying to get in front of people. I've actually checked out your website and it's actually really good. I have a couple of pointers that might help you increase your influence or increase your conversions or increase your whatever it is that she knows that I'm looking for. And now she's into a completely different conversation with me than what are you struggling with and what is your challenge. So when I say that I start a lot of my stuff with that, I do, but I also want you to make sure that you're figuring out like, what is the train of questions that would actually lead me to the conversation I'm trying to get to with people? And if they're like, no, I'm not your ideal client, then it's not necessarily that they're not. It might be because you're not positioning yourself in a way that would make them recognize that they could even use your services. So hopefully that's landing for you guys. I know that I just took up a lot of time at the beginning, but I really wanted to cover that. Okay, any questions? Because I'm going to jump into the collaborative events. Can you guys hear how heavy I'm breathing? My lungs are getting 2.5 weeks till baby shows up. Almost there. Okay, I'm just gonna check Facebook and see if anyone's in here, just so that I don't ignore you. Always forget that part. There's 2 on live. Catherine, hey. Oh, you can jump into the Zoom if you want, no worries. Doesn't bother us at all. She said she doesn't want to disrupt, but if you're happy on Facebook, that's fine. I'll just leave this window open. Okay, so collaborative events. I came up with some awesome pointers this morning that I really wanted to emphasize today about why host collaborative events versus all the other lead gen sources that we could have. So when we are talking about this, I want to talk about collaborating with other entrepreneurs, other women. I mean, it could be guys too, but usually I only focus on women who would share ideal clients is basically what it comes to. And a huge shift that needs to be made is, at first people are like, well, why would somebody want to bring their leads to your event? I've heard that lots of times. And I say, well, if you are the type of person who likes to collaborate with other women and create win-win situations, then you don't compete, right? You collaborate. And what that means is if you have a certain topic that somebody's going to come to and bring their leads to, so they're inviting their leads to them, right? They're inviting their audience. They're going to email their list and post on social about this event that you're creating. And whoever sticks up their hand and says, yes, that sounds like a topic for me, now they're going to be on your email list. So why would somebody want to bring their leads to you? Well, because you're also bringing leads to them, because they're getting the exposure at the event as well. And all of the women, I would be shocked if I talked to any of the women that have come to one of my summits as speakers who haven't been like, yeah, I love that energy. I love the vibe. I love the conversation. I've had great feedback from my people who came. Like, you have to make it a win-win-win for everyone, for the attendees, for the speakers, and for yourself. So it's like the trifecta. It's the perfect combination. And you walk away with targeted leads yourself. So obviously it's a lead gen, like that's the purpose of it. But just in case you're like, well, why would somebody want to bring their people to my summit or whatever? It's like, well, why wouldn't they? Because most of us in this collaborative energy and space are happy if somebody from my audience jumps into one of the other coaches who is a speaker on my summit. I'm happy if they connect with her and they know that she can help them with exactly where they're at. I'm pumped that I was able to introduce that relationship. And that just creates good karma, right? So don't ever feel like, well, why would anyone want to speak at this? Or why would it? Because you're putting together exposure seminars, let's call them, but they're not seminars. But you're creating opportunities for people to get in front of their ideal clients too. And that's priceless for all of us, because ads are tough, right? The ads world has shifted so much in the last couple of years. So a lot of people who were focusing mainly on that for their lead generation have had to shift into other things. And the other thing that has happened lately is that people want connection. They're craving it so badly after the pandemic and everything that just happened in the last couple of years. People want to feel connected again, and they're craving it, and we have to deliver that. So a summit or a collaborative event is a great way to do that, because you're gonna grow your know, like, and trust really quickly. You are going to become an authority in your space. You're automatically being endorsed by the speakers who are coming to your summit. So you're already positioned as an authority that people are willing to kind of check out and listen to in your space. So it's just, I mean, the power of collaborative virtual events to me is like, it's unmatched, and it builds a list quickly. That's the whole point of what we're talking about. It's like, how do I get enough bang for my buck out of doing something online, which a lot of people are like, I post consistently, I hear crickets. I DM people, nothing happens. I post in other people's Facebook group, literally nobody even liked my post. Like, and so you get so frustrated and you feel like your people aren't out there, but that's not true. But what we can do is host a collaborative virtual event where everyone who has your ideal clients already in their audience brings them all together and you get to host it. So can you see the power of how you could pull the right leads if you had the right topics, the right tagline, and then literally you start strategically asking speakers in your, like most of us sell similar things, I would say, on a lot of my summits, but we sell them in very different ways. And so when somebody's attracted to my energy, they might not be attracted to somebody else's energy who's very passive or who has passive income type sales, because that's not what they're looking for. My people are looking to fill one-on-ones and group programs. Like that's kind of where I've taken my niche. Can I help everyone? Sure. But what's my bread and butter? Who are the people that I can help the most is coaches who are looking to sell high ticket offers by creating relationships. So that's kind of where I've gotten to. When you're first starting to do these events, how do you find the speakers? What do you think my answer is going to be? I get a kick out of this. I went out and talked to real people.
So that was the question. I mean, do you just look, folks, you just Google and find other women who...
I didn't Google. A lot of people will do Amazon or they'll do Google and stuff like that. I just went on Instagram and looked for influencers that I thought might be a fit for me. And then often I would also take it a step further and go to their website and stuff like that to see if they had any kind of a lead magnet or anything like that that would suggest that they had an email list. Because just because somebody has 5,000 or 10,000 followers on Instagram, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have influence, to be honest. So I also, at the beginning, because I took a high ticket program to learn how to run summits, which is why I now teach imperfect summits, because I think, wow, that was a lot of time wasted on creating a perfect summit when really I could have done 3 in that amount of time. You know what I mean? Like, but they were very they stressed the point of making sure that people had at least 5,000 people on their email list. Otherwise they couldn't come and be a speaker. And I hated the process of how you would actually drop people off as soon as you found out their email list after you'd had a great conversation and an interview with them. So I actually don't teach that. But also because if you're selling the lower ticket and you need, this is just me like talking about this again, if you bring in 2,000 leads on a summit, it's pretty hard to actually connect with 2,000 of them. So when we're talking about, okay, well, how many people do you actually need to sign in the next 3 to 6 months? For most women, it's like 6 to 8, maybe 10 clients. So do we really need to go and piss a bunch of people off after we've had a great conversation with them, just so that we can feel good about the numbers that landed on our email list? To me, that wasn't worth it. I would rather go and talk to other women that I really jive with and have good chemistry with, because our leads are going to be similar. And there's also, like, when I first started out, it was very much how many people can we get to these events and how big can my list build be? And now I think I've shifted completely away from that into how good could the quality of my list build be? So that's a shift that I've made strategically. But again, if you're trying to sell a lot of low ticket stuff, that probably isn't the right, like, you would still want to focus on the bigger list just to pull in the numbers and the volume. But if you're focused on the higher ticket offers, then you actually want to legitimately connect with people. So pulling in 50, 100, even 150 is like 200 is probably lots for me for what I do now. But even if it's 50 to 100, like, that's my sweet spot now, because I can handle that many leads and I can reach out and connect with a lot of them as a real person afterwards. So I'm not like, that's the other thing, is that we have these big bang for your buck events or strategies, and then a lot of those people fall through the cracks because we just don't have time to get to them all. So what's the point of wasting your time doing that? I mean, that's just my personal philosophy. And again, if you're trying to sell a lot of low ticket, high volume stuff, you're going to want to go for the bigger list builds. But I would rather get in, know my people inside out, create events on the other side of summits, because summits for me don't convert. So a lot of people are like, well, why would you pay all that money to learn how to run summits when they don't even monetize? And you can monetize them a little bit by selling like a VIP upgrade. I do that. But my main focus is lead generation, those to bring in the right type of people so that when I stack events on the other side, that's where I nurture and convert. So that's kind of the process that I like to bring people through. And then that's what I teach my one-on-one clients too. It's so powerful. I had a client, she didn't even run a summit. She just literally went out and did her market research and connected with 30 in 30 days. And then she invited everyone that she thought would be a good fit to a free masterclass that she taught. And she's like, she's literally shaking in her boots, has never been on camera before to teach anything. Like literally, I was so proud of her. She did awesome. If she catches the replay, drop in the comments below and we would love to hear from you. I don't know if I can share your story, but anyways, she literally, I don't know, I was just so freaking proud of her. She didn't have any camera confidence at all. She didn't have any sales experience. She was the least salesy person you've ever heard of in your whole life. And she said, well, how do I do this? And I said, well, let's just create a really simple masterclass where you're going to teach 3 things about this topic. And then at the end, instead of pitching or putting any kind of pressure on yourself, you're just going to say, if you would like, to know a little bit more, or I can help you dive into your specific business, then just book a free call with me, a clarity call next week. And I'll give you any advice I can. And that was her whole CTA at the end. So it doesn't have to be this crazy salesy, pitchy, pressury feeling for events. And she had a bunch of people that booked this free clarity call. And then they asked her, like, what would it look like to work with you? I would love for you to come and help me. And she was a service-based entrepreneur. And she ended up making $2,600 that next month in her business. And she'd never made $1 before. So it was like such a powerful example of how just reaching out to real people and hosting a free nurture and convert event, I would call it. Some of your events are only going to nurture, and that's okay. But remember, we said focus on the process, not the results. So she did it, and she pulled people just to free calls, and they loved her honesty and her personality. And then they got on these calls with her, and then they asked her, all of them asked her what it would look like to work with her. And then we had created some easy yes offers for her, which I always make sure that all my clients have. You need to have some easy yes offers in your back pocket so that when somebody asks you, hey, like, how could you help me? Or what would that look like? Then you just have those easy responses instead of having like a big sales page and a big pitch and a big launch. Like, it doesn't have to happen like that. So she was just like the best example of that happening so organically and naturally. So this process works, but you focus on the process, not the result. Because then she hosted another masterclass, I think a couple weeks later or a month later, and it didn't convert the same way, but I also think that was because she had stopped reaching out to new people, and then she didn't have new leads, which is why I like the collaborative events to actually be a series, so that you always know that you're going to be every 2 months or every 3 months or however often you want to put them out there. You have new leads coming in, as well as you're still nurturing the ones that are already in your world. Okay. Catherine says, wow, sounds exactly what I need. No camera confidence and no sales. Yeah, well, I'm telling you, Liz, if she can do it, you can do it, Catherine, because she is like, I want to say this in like the most complimentary way, the least salesy person I have ever met. And she still managed, I think it was her second month when we were working together, to pull in $2,600. And she had never made a dime before. And it was just by connecting with real people, inviting them to a super simple event with a really simple, non-pitchy sales or call to action at the end. And then people just genuinely wanted her help. So it literally, like, sales can feel that easy. Now, if she pulls in new people and invites them to that same masterclass every time, she could do that. And she'd probably keep converting. But she decided to like switch up and go to something else without pulling in new leads. So here's the thing. If she gets back on the train, this is where a lot of people fall off. You find something that works, but then they're like, oh, it didn't make me a $10,000 month, so I got to switch. And it's like, well, a lot of the time we just have to stay committed, right? Clarity, confidence, commitment to one direction until successful. So if your goal is to make 10 figures or 5 figures, 5K a month, 5 figures, that is 10K. You know me, pregnancy brain. If your goal right now is to hit 5K consistently, then that you should be committed to one process until that goal happens. Then you can evaluate if you want to switch your strategy or not. But I'm telling you, everybody, including myself, for years, I pivoted and I chased all the shiny objects. I mean, I got strategies in here that you don't even want to know. I mean, I could teach just a course on strategies, but it's like, what I know for sure is that you need to pick a strategy and run with it and stick to it until successful. So okay, you guys are jumping in the chat and I'm way behind. Most of my clients are executive directors, and I wasn't sure I wanted to, knowing how busy they are. I need to think of a few others I could ask that aren't clients at this moment, so I need to do it. So if you want, Rachel, just to circle back to your thing about reach outs, a lot of your past clients are a great place to start because you have a lot of success stories, right? And if you're getting a lot of referral business, then it's easy for you to reach out and be like, hey, Julie or whoever, can I just pick your brain on a couple of things? I just have this like an offer or a new package that I'm creating. And I just wanted to kind of pick your brain of where you were at before we started working together so that I can make sure that I'm tailoring the, you know, what I'm talking about or the content or whatever to, or the package to executive directors like you who really wanted the help with their website, you know, and then just talk to her in her language, just like that, however you would say it. And then a lot of your existing clients will probably give you like, oh man, back then I was like, before we started working together, I felt overwhelmed by websites. I felt blah, 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 you know, like you'll get the words that she can remember. And then you can now take those words and go over to a new crew. And if you're scared to ask somebody because you think they're too busy, then you're missing the whole point of the service that you're offering, because you're saying, hey, I know you're too busy to deal with this. This is how I can take this off your plate and make your nonprofit or your business run so much smoother because this, and this. You're going to pick 3 bullet points that you've now gotten from your existing clients who have said, oh, this is what I was worried about. This is what I was, you know what I mean? You're going to grab that exact messaging and you're going to be able to reach out to people on LinkedIn and you're going to say, hey, is this something that you're exploring or would love to take care of, or it's on your list of things to do this year or in the next year or whatever that looks like. And then they're going to be like, thank you for reaching out. Oh my gosh, yes, I would love to hear about that. Right? It's a very different conversation than, hey, I know you're too busy. Would you mind telling me what you're struggling with or what your challenge is with websites right now in your nonprofit? Like, it's such a different conversation. So that's what I mean about, like, when you go start talking to real people, you get words to go talk to other real people. And now you get those words and now you can go market it online to other people, right? Is that all landing? What else? When you're first starting these events, how do you find the speakers? I reached out on Instagram. It's literally, or Facebook if I couldn't find them on Instagram. Also, I went and I looked at different summits that were happening in my space, and I would go and I would stalk the speakers that were on somebody else's, and I would see if I liked their vibe and if I thought they would be a good fit for the topic or whatever I was coming up with, and I would reach out to them and I would say, hey, how's it going, Sheila, or whatever? Like, I love what you're doing. I love that you're helping other ambitious moms. I'm hosting a summit called the Ambitious Mom Summit coming up, blah, 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 blah. If you're interested, I would love to know if you could be a speaker. Like, I could pull up the exact message I used to send, but I used to get a ton of people, even like the high level influencers who would always voice back and be like, oh, I normally never respond to these DMs, but yeah, I would love to connect and just find out a little bit more about your event. And then I would say, awesome, I would love that too. And I would send them a Calendly link, like a little scheduling link that was just for 15 minutes. It was called a speaker connection call. And I have only ever had one person who refused to get on that call with me. So she didn't come to my summit, and that's okay. Do you know what I mean? So by going out and reaching out and being a real person and pulling in people that you connect with and you collaborate with, freaking, you'll build the targeted list so much faster, so that now you don't have a leads problem. Because remember yesterday we were talking about, you're going to go in circles with your messaging, your offers, your content, and your sales, and you don't know if any of them are working if you don't actually have leads. So you want to create a consistent, repeatable lead generation system, which I like to use virtual events and especially summits for lead gen. Am I saying that I do collaborative event and then some type of nurturing event a week or so afterwards? Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. Precisely. Okay, any questions? So for collaborative events, I'm going to give you an action step here. So action step for day 2 is going to be to brainstorm out 3 ideas for collaborative events. And what I mean by that is like 3 titles, topics, themes, whatever you want to call it. But like, if you were to think about your ideal client, I know you're going to keep reaching out and keep doing market research because 30 and 30 doesn't happen unless you actually go do the work. But start to think about like, okay, well, what kind of topics would I actually want to put out as like an event that would pull in my ideal clients? Because I'm going to talk about really briefly this is my really fancy framework for collaborative events. You map it, you build it, you execute it. So I literally want you to keep this as simple as possible in your head. When you're mapping it out, you're going to think like, first of all, what's the topic or the theme or the title or the, you know, and then what tagline goes with it so that we can really reinforce who that's for and pull in the right person. And then you're going to say, and it's going to be on this date, and this is how many speakers I'm going to pull in, and this is how I want to run it. Like I want it to be pre-recorded, or I want it to be live. I'm going to host it just on Zoom, or I'm going to host it on Zoom and stream it into a Facebook group. Like you don't have to get fancy with any kind of software or any crazy stuff. If you have Zoom and you have an email, you can run the whole thing off of that. I like to run mine on Zoom with my speakers, then I stream them into the Facebook group live for the audience. So what does that do? That allows me to have a really like an awesome conversation on Zoom and then stream it into a Facebook group where everyone came onto my email list coming in. And now those people are also, because a certain percentage of them won't ever watch the summit, but that's okay because they're still targeted leads based on the theme. Might have been bad timing. For example, this week, we can just use all virtual events. A lot of people will say like, yes, I'm interested in that topic, but then life gets in the way. So one of the girls that I was like super connected with and great chemistry with, her kid has like a 102 fever or whatever, and she's taking her to the doctor. So she's not going to hop on the live. Do I take that personally? No, that's life happening and it happens to all of us. But the timing is going to be wrong for her today, but that's okay. So even with your summits, it's like not everyone who signs up for your summit is going to come to your event. Usually 25% of people show up live. For example, again, keep going with the examples. I have 31 people that signed up for this challenge and I talked to 28 of them in the DMs. And so I know exactly what's going on with lots of them, but only probably 6 of you will show up live every day because that's just the stat for online events. So don't forget that there are pieces of this that are going to be like, when I say host a summit with 50 to 100 people that are coming, the attendance on the day of, if you have 50 people, is probably going to be 10-ish, 11, right? 12 maybe. So you don't take that personally if that many people show up, because about 50% will watch it, including the replay. And that's the same with all virtual events. You can increase that sometimes with some actual personal connection in the DMs and stuff like that, but you don't take that stuff personally. You just don't. That's just stats. So back to this, first step is to map it out, which is just to get a general overview, because as soon as you book a date and a time and you say, okay, it's going to be a live event or it's going to be a pre-recorded event and here's how long the interviews are going to be or whatever, now it's really easy to start going and just finding. So now we're going to build it out. So now we're going to put our speakers in. You have to figure out obviously like what the promo material is going to be, but that's not till closer to your summit. The hardest part is to map it out. So that's why I want you guys to do an action step. The first step, it's not going to be a whole map it out piece, but it's like name 3 topics that you would want to pull people to right now. Do I leave the replay in the face? No, I don't usually leave the replay in the Facebook group indefinitely. I usually take them down, but you can do whatever you want. It's your business. The reason that I usually pull mine down, I think my most recent summit, actually, I think I forgot to take it down, but that's a pregnancy thing. And that's why, you know what, messy action and imperfect action still work. But I do usually take my challenges down. Like I'll say, okay, you have until the end of the weekend or whatever to watch. and then I'll take them down, because otherwise everyone could just kind of come in, and you want people to go through a process. Just, I talk about process over and over, but you want people really to come in and go through a process. Summits or events in a Facebook group that's just a pop-up Facebook group, then you don't actually have to touch it, because only the people that were in it will have the access to it. So you could just create another pop-up for another event if you wanted to. I like to run all my events in my Facebook group, the Ambitious Moms Facebook group, just because, I don't know, it's easy. So that's literally, if it feels good to you and it feels easy, then it probably will work better for you. Okay, so collaborative events, same with virtual events. This is the exact same process I go through with any of the events that I teach. You map it, you build it, you execute it. So map it, like I said, it's going to be your details. Once you lock in a date, you don't change it, you just go for it. Unless your kid's in the hospital, then you could change it. But other than that, literally, there's not really any excuse to change your date, because if you're changing your date, it's because you're trying to be perfect, or you're worried about some ridiculous detail. And it's like, nope, you're going to execute. You have to go through this, because just like yesterday, I talked about the process. You want to build the skill set of the process, right? So executing 3 summits in the time that it would take you to perfect one is way more valuable to you, because you're going to see what happens when nobody shows up, or what happens when speakers cancel last minute, or what happens when your tech goes down, or all the things, and you have to learn to adapt and overcome. Now you can run your next summit so much easier, because you already have that experience. So it's way more important to actually go through the process and just execute and do them, than to just try to figure out the perfect way with all the bells and whistles. I promise you. Okay, so is everybody clear on their homework tonight? Action step for day 2 is come up with 3 titles or themes or topics, whatever you want to call them, for a collaborative event that you would do for your ideal client, with your ideal client in mind. And then post them. I'll put like a little day 2 homework post. And don't forget that if you go and do the homework and you post below the homework thread, then you'll be entered in the draw to win a 90-minute intensive with me at the end of the week. I heard a kid. Okay, does anyone have more questions? Otherwise, I'm going to hop off. Any questions for the day? Is this helping you guys? I rambled a lot at the beginning, but I wanted to get that really nailed down.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're good? Okay. So tomorrow, what we're going to talk about is, okay, you can see how we could start to bring in a lot of people through collaborative events, because other speakers will bring their audiences. So you don't have to have this crazy question mark anymore of where do I find my people. You're actually going to create the event that pulls everyone to you. And then tomorrow we're going to touch on, okay, but now what? Like, I have leads, now what? So I'm going to show you the process that I use of what I call event stacking, which is hosting the nurture and convert events after the summit. So you're bringing in I want you guys to start thinking about collaborative events as your lead generator, the repeatable system that you can use to pull in the right people. So day 1, we talked about finding the right people, like knowing who they actually are. Now I want you to think of like, well, what topics would they be interested in so that I can pull them to a collaborative event? And then tomorrow we're going to talk about, okay, well, natural next steps would include what for that person. And you're going to put together events which help them take the next step, because that's the whole point of your business, is to help people go through the steps and solve the problems that they're working on or that they want solved. So that's kind of the whole procedure. But tomorrow, yeah, I want to dive into event stacking and the process of the nurture and convert on the other side, because I think that's one thing that a lot of people say after summits. They're like, okay, well, I have this list now, or this audience now, like, what do I do with it? Well, we're going to invite them to something else, and then let the people who are, what do they call it? Like the cream rise to the top, which again, doesn't mean that some people are good or some people are bad. It's like the cream, meaning who's ready to take next steps. So you're going to position your events for those people. And you're going to know that because you've talked to a lot of real people.
So quick question.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's been a couple months, July, August, September, October. So I mean, it's been 3 months now since I've done my event. So I mean, that's a long time. And of course I've continued to send out weekly emails and so forth, but would it be weird at this point, like while I'm considering like ideas for a next collaborative event to go ahead and do like a mastermind event where it's just me and offering it just to the people that I brought in from the last summit?
I think it's always a good time, as long as you're putting topics in front of them that they actually like that they're interested in, that they feel like is a missing piece or the next step for them. I think that it's always easier to pull people to when they're in momentum still, like, which is what the summits create. But I don't think that, like, if you had a bunch of like true targeted leads that came in on that summit a couple months ago, it's not too late to be able to reach back around and say, hey, I'm creating this cool thing coming up in, what month are we in right now? Middle October. So you could run an event now, you could run another one before the end of October, and then you could run a summit, let's say beginning of November or middle of November. And then you could run 2 more events, because your target is moms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like driven moms. So generally speaking, after December 10th, most moms fall off the face of the earth to go do Christmas.
Until January 3rd or 4th. Yeah.
And so that's fine. Like, as long as you're like, okay, so if I'm sitting here right now and I was to run, like, you could promote for the next 10 days, like a targeted masterclass for them. And then you could, in the meantime, be creating your next summit for, let's say, I don't know, November 10th, just a random date. Then you could fit in another masterclass or workshop or something like that before the end of November, so that they're not even thinking, oh, it's December, I'm checked out yet. That's just, I mean, it just depends. So sometimes when I'm running events, like, it depends on who your ideal client is. I'm talking to a lot of like ambitious moms who are business owners. So Christmas doesn't really start affecting them until like the 15th, 20th even. And they're usually ready to get back on the horse. Sometimes like a little interjection right before New Year's, but most of them like right after New Year's, like they want to get the kids back to school and run again. So you just have to like ask your ideal clients, hey, if I was to host this on December 4th, like, would you be able to make it? And if the answer is no, I am crazy in December, and you're dealing with a lot of professionals who are probably going to also have networking events and a lot of other things. So it just totally depends on who you're pulling in and what the purpose is. Because also, if you are dealing with moms and you're talking about the high, what did you call it the other day? Let's just call them super driven working moms.
Right.
There's also going to be things that are going to happen around Christmas time that they know ahead of time that they're going to struggle with, like getting it all done without freaking out, or being present with my family, even though I have 100 things to do. Like, that's a topic that somebody might be like, oh, I actually want the skills or, you know, something to cope with this season that I know is coming up, so that I don't act like a crazy person in front of my kids again. Like, so it just depends on how you're positioning your event and what you want to lead it into.
No, I think that's, yeah, totally get it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, of course. Okay, everybody good? Okay, cool. So I'm going to let you guys go and come up with your 3 brainstorm topics for a collaborative event. The name, you can get as detailed as you want, or you can be generic if you want. The point is that you start to, you know, like, wrap your head around, okay, well, what could I create? And you'll probably, I always call it shower thoughts. Like, when you're showering, nobody's asking you for a snack for once, or when you're driving, because you finally get a few minutes to like actually think for yourself, or when you're cooking or whatever, like whenever you have those like downloads of like, oh, it's like a hit of inspiration, just like jot those down and then drop them in the homework thread for tonight for the day 2 action step. And then tomorrow we'll start to kind of like rattle around. Okay, so if you were to pick a date and pull some like speakers to that collaborative event for that topic, now what else would be stacked behind it in terms of like a masterclass or a workshop or a challenge or a, you know, boot camp is more kind of usually, well, not always, but usually it's more of the health space. And I can even talk a little bit about like what's the difference between a masterclass and a workshop and a challenge and all that kind of stuff tomorrow. But I just want you to start getting the creative juices flowing for the map it out stage. So that's just the idea, the concepts. And then you can either, if you already know your ideal client quite well, then you can nail down your first summit and go for it like right away after tomorrow. But if you feel like you're still like, I might need to talk to a couple more people and just confirm that that's the topic that they're actually interested in or whatever, then that's totally fine too. Depends where you're at. But some people are going to like take this map it out process and be able to run with it right away. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. And thanks for sticking around with me, and we will see you tomorrow. Cheers, guys.